War Eagle Auburn family and E2C Network family, thank you for joining us again on another Thursday night live stream. You know the case every Thursday during football season. We're talking about the next big matchup. Well, let's be honest, the last 2 weeks, they haven't been that big of matchups, even though Auburn underperformed in the last week. It seemed like somewhat of a big matchup. This one is definitely a humongous matchup. So tonight we're going to be previewing Auburn versus Penn State. 2:30 Central Time kickoff, 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff. We're going to be talking about the ins and the outs of it, predictions, previews, anything that we can just wrap our minds around to try to understand the magnitude of this matchup that is coming to Auburn, Alabama for the very first time. That's all on the table. Of course, your comments, your questions. As we get started tonight, we always want to remind you this is our check-in period. Please do post where you're watching from, city, state, international, if you are international, with a War Eagle. If we've got any Nittany Lions out there joining the show tonight, we'd love to hear from you. Whatever it is y'all do, you do the thing you do, and let us know that you're here in the chat tonight. And make sure you smash that like button if you do enjoy this type of content. As I've told you all on Wednesday night, we do Wednesday nights too, but Thursday night live streams, we've always wanted to have some more voices, namely some voices that aren't Auburn voices, ones that might be pertinent to the team that we are currently going to play. And I am thankful tonight not only to have one of those voices, but to have one that I know personally. It's a good friend of mine, somebody I really trust his perspective on things. So I would like to introduce to you all my friend, Mr. Fred Abley. How are you doing, Fred?
I'm doing great, Kyle. I'm so excited, looking forward to this. I've been thinking about it all day. And thanks for giving me the invite to do this. This is fun.
Of course. Now, Fred, obviously, Penn State guy from the state, all that kind of stuff. So he is definitely someone we want to talk to get a little bit of a better perspective about their side of this matchup, what they're excited about, all that kind of stuff. So, Fred, I got to know, I kind of made fun of what y'all would say earlier. What is y'all's, we say War Eagle. What is it Go Lions? What is it?
So the main cheer is always, we are Penn State, right? So that's the one everybody always hear. The Lion roar is always the, that type of thing. But we are Penn State is our main chant that goes on throughout the game.
Okay, I got it now. So that reminds me a lot of the, well, not necessarily the same thing, but Michigan State does the go green, go white, something like that. So something along the same vein of that. So I got to ask, though, I feel like we've had this conversation, you and me, before.
I think we have, yeah. Because it's good.
Do you understand the War Eagle thing, or is that still like a foreign concept to you?
I mean, I understand what it is. I've seen it many times. I don't know if I clearly understand the origin of it, though.
What? Oh, wow. Oh,
why don't you tell that history?
Do you have all night?
Well, right.
So, according to the university, last time I checked, there are 4 subscribed, or you can choose which. It's like pick your own adventure stories that tell how War Eagle began. Simply the long and short of it is the one I subscribe to, and I always tell people, is that there was a pet eagle from a Civil War veteran way back in the day when they first started playing football that started circling the field during one of our big matchups. And as Auburn came back and won the game, it died right on the center, right at the 50-yard line. And so to this day, we yell War Eagle in honor of that eagle, even though we're the Tigers. So
right
there you go.
That's interesting. And actually, I think it's really funny when we're in the bubble, we expect everybody else to know all of our history, right? We have the Penn State history. And of course, as I was saying before, once we venture outside of the borders of Pennsylvania, we're like, everybody knows Joe Paterno's history. Everybody knows the lineage and so on. But one of the things that I don't, it wasn't recent, but the we are. So one half of the stadium says we are, and then the other side says Penn State, and it goes back and forth. And that phrase has some interesting history. So it actually goes back. I could be wrong, and I know I'm going to have some Penn Staters who might be chiming here. They're going to be wrong. I believe it has its origins back into the 50s, and it actually has its origins of we play all or none. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with the racial schism that was going on at the time. They wanted to play all their players, or they didn't play at all, because they were facing some other teams that were saying, no, you can't bring that here. We're not going to let them play. And from that, it stuck. So it continues to be, we are Penn State. So, and our colors were never blue and white. They were actually pink and black.
What?
Yes. So it kind of has some, I don't know how the transition took place, but yeah, they ended up moving from that. It was a very faded red and a black color. Right. So, thank goodness.
Well, since you brought the topic of colors, you may not be aware of this, Fred, but this has been a very busy week for Auburn fans. And obviously we'll take some of y'all's comments and questions on this topic and many others throughout the night tonight. So please do drop them in. There has been a big push this week to see the revival of the fabled orange jerseys that Auburn wore very minimally.
And is this the orange out?
So this is the orange out. That's why I'm wearing an orange thing tonight. We will hopefully now. Fred, let me be honest with you. Auburn fans traditionally do not do well with these coordinating colors things like y'all's. I want to say it for all the Penn State fans visiting, whether they're watching live or on the replay. Y'all did a great job. I mean, that was out. I've seen it on TV before, but obviously to see it with my team there, I had hoped to be in the stadium to experience the whiteout myself. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Y'all did, the coordination is just, except for that little orange and blue speck up at the corner.
Little speck up in the upper division.
Yeah, that one was the only thing that was like a blemish in y'all's whiteout. I think it's actually going to be a pretty good orange out for the most part, but notoriously we are just not good at doing those things because I don't know why. It's just
well, you know what I think what makes it so it's real easy doing a whiteout because it's white.
Right.
And even if it's a subtle gray, it kind of blends in. I think what ends up happening with some of these other schools where they have the colors, if you get any shade variation whatsoever, it starts to look patchy.
Right.
And it kind of doesn't have that same effect. But you're right. Kyle, I'll tell you what, when you come up to the Northeast and it's a whiteout event, and I hope we can be there together. I would love to get you in there to see it, because the first whiteout event that I can remember attending was one of those moments that it just haunts you in a weird way. The stadium is Beaver Stadium, right? It looks like a giant erector set. It's been there since the 1960s. And when you walk in and you see the seat, but it's shaking. It's 110,000 people and it's shaking. Kind of makes you worried for a second. And then the noise is like rock star deafening type, like what, not rock star, but like when you go to a rock concert or an outdoor concert, whatever it may be, and your ears are ringing for the rest of the night. It's that effect on you that way. So like, I always wonder how these young guys on the field, I can only imagine what it's like on the field.
Yeah.
How intimidating it is, even if it's your home crowd. It gets super loud, but it's such a great environment though, isn't it? It's fun.
It on TV, it looks great. Hopefully we can make this a more, not regular, but more often than it has been. Cause this is only the fourth time that Auburn and Penn State have met. The first two were in bowl games. You got the first one. We got the second one. I think that's how it rolled out. And then obviously you got us last year. So obviously we got to return the favor this year and make this thing evened up, you got Franklin, right? He's a Vanderbilt guy. So he's from your division, your conference is down there, and he has connections. There's relationships. They all know each other. It's just a good thing. Like those are the rivalries that I love. I mean, I love the history of the sport in that sense. I kind of wonder what'll happen though when we move into that other college championship type mode, right? If these relationships will stay, because they're fun. It's I don't know. It's what kind of sports should be about, Yep. My friend Clint, he does a lot of great work. He is actually an Auburn uniform expert. He runs the Auburn uniform database. That's actually his logo. You can see there. When I tell you, Fred, that this guy obsessives over like uniforms of football, soccer, he's tried gymnastics, but that's rough to do with all the sequins and stuff like that. And it's not just uniforms, like it's every aspect of like Auburn aesthetics history that you can imagine. So he knows like lots of facts like this. And obviously a lot of people have been talking about this one, that this is the first time a Big Ten team has ever come to Auburn. That to me blows my mind. Is that true? It is apparently true. Wow. I didn't realize that either. Wow. And so that's why it needs to stay, right? It needs to continue on. It needs to be, part of that connection and the great rivalry, the great programs, right? So they've been around forever. Wow. Programs. That's fun stuff. It is. That's mind blowing. I just didn't think that I would have thought somebody else would have been there. Yeah. It's interesting. We've had like USC. We've had, I'm trying to think of the other I'm blanking on a lot. Obviously, Clemson. Yeah, we've had a lot of these regional, bigger programs come in for non-conference games, and it's been fun to have them here. But I've longed for some stuff like this where we got a Penn State coming in. I love to have an Ohio State and Michigan come in here and do some stuff like that.
The Ohio State, please.
I'm sorry. We don't do that here. I know you're making fun of them too.
I have to.
We thank you for the super chat, Southeastern Kaiju, for Saturday's Victory Cigar / Dejection Fund, whichever you choose, I guess, whichever one happens. Sure, thank you for that. I will gladly accept all of that. I'm obviously counting on and hoping that we're going to have a win, but we'll see here. Before we kind of get into maybe some discussion about the actual game itself, back to the orange out thing. So there's some history there. There's some thought. There was a bit of playing up this entire week from Clint was part of it. I was just talking about the athletic departments were playing it up, that the orange was coming back. We are doing orange face masks, which is a bit of a step out. Auburn are tradition fiends. I am one of those. I like tradition. I don't like change. So even changing the face mask for me is kind of like just a little bit, I don't like that, but it's fine. I think it's actually, if you're going to do this for something like a special game, like we did the whiteout for you, the white face mask for y'all's whiteouts last year.
Right.
So I guess we're just switching it up when you come to our place this year.
Go ahead.
No.
So what is the mask like though? Is it just something for painting on, or is it something?
The face mask, the bars, just the, it's typically like, Clint's going to scream at me now if he's still watching because he's the pro in this. It's typically like a navy, right, Clint, or is it black? I can't remember exactly, but there's a traditional color to it that everybody's used to. It stays the same. And then last year we decided, hey, we're mixing it up. We're going white first for Penn State. And then we came back for, I think it was Ole Miss or something like that with orange and tried it out and everybody loved it. Everybody thought it was great. And, it was just, it was a fun time. So you guys are getting that. Typically Navy mask. Yes, he says that. He's the pro, so I trust his judgment, all of that. Anyway, so that's happening, but they've confirmed today that there will not be any orange jerseys. So you will not see the orange jerseys walking out amongst a sea of orange. So I don't know if that made you really worried at all, but you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I think it's just I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen other color variations, but it'll be fun to watch for just to see. Because it's college football. It's you just said it before. It's the tradition aspect. Mm-hmm. And this is part of the fun. This is what you don't get in the NFL. You don't get this kind of fanfare, and that's what makes it that much better. So
the only division, and I am no NFL proficient. I watch it sparingly. I know a little bit about the history of the NFL, but to me, the only thing that comes close to that level would be like the NFC East with the Eagles, the Cowboys, what used to be the Redskins, now the Commanders. Who am I forgetting from that? I'm forgetting somebody, and they're all screaming at me right now. Anyway, that division is always, to me, had the history, the legacies, the rivalries that kind of rival some of that, but not really to the level that college football, and especially for our case in point, the SEC has had. And so I'm happy to have a program like Penn State have this game with us and be part of history. So I actually acquired my ticket today. I'm going to be in the stadium, in the orange out, ready to roll. I'm excited for it. So I guess, when you look at this game, Fred, what is your perception of it? Is it one in your mind from Penn State land that Penn State's favored to win? I think that's probably the case, just looking at rankings and stuff, but like, where are you at in like looking at the game?
I think it's just going to be a good game, and, it can go either way, obviously. I think both teams really truly are still untested. We had a great slugfest with Purdue. We opened up against, and then we go up against Ohio, where we blew out some numbers. But I think what we're going to see is, now we're going to go up against a really good run game, right? So is it going to be a game of the front four, or is it going to be the 7, and hopefully it won't go beyond the 7, because if we have running backs from your side blasting through our lines, we got a big problem. But I think it's going to be, I think I'm expecting a run game. I think it's going to be a run. I think it's going to be a battle in the box so much. So I don't know. I mean, I think the weapons all exist on the wings and with the wideouts. And we have a 6-year senior, which sometimes we love him, but we look at him and he's been here a long time. He knows the program. He's got a lot of tools to his disposal, or a lot of weapons to his disposal. But I'm expecting a running kind of game. That's where I think I'm leaning towards.
And I will tell you this, that I do think that if it becomes a run game on both sides, that I do think that is in Auburn's favor. Not because I don't think that you guys don't have a potential to have a great running game, but because of, have you heard of the name Tank Bigsby?
Oh, yes, we have.
Tank Bigsby. I know he was there last year, and I can't remember what type of game he had last year. I feel like it was okay. I do know that the second running back who's here still, Jarquez Hunter, busted off a really big run where he hurdled one of the guys on the sideline. He's still here, and he's actually got more touchdowns than Tank. But I think that is the one area. Someone who was talking about this today on social media, and I wish I could give them credit, but they were discussing, like, if it comes down to the run game on either side of the ball, Auburn has the clear advantage, and I would say that for our defensive run game too. But everything else is clearly in Penn State's favor. So in my mind, this game is contingent upon Clifford, y'all's guy, taking that ball and distributing it around as well as y'all did against Ohio. Now, I didn't watch a film on, Penn State. Obviously, I got plenty to watch here at Auburn, but I read about it, and I, heard our coach talk about it in the press conference this week about how well y'all distribute the ball for the first two games. So if you can exploit our defensive backs, you got this game won, because right now they look a little suspect, but obviously, 3 games in, you'd hope you'd start getting things a little bit better.
Yeah. And that's where I think, we have a stable full of great backs, and I think we're going to be fine for this year. Right. But also in the coming years, but it all comes back to that line, that offensive line too, for us. What are they going to be able to do to protect Clifford? He could be mobile, and when he does become mobile, how he extends the play or whatever, he appears to be pretty effective because he looks so comfortable. But at the same time, he's taken a lot of hits too. So it becomes, as soon as you see him come out of that pocket, there's a little bit of, I think for me, it's a little bit of like, oh boy, here we go. But you're right. It could be. So one of the things though, I think could be a factor, in my opinion, also is the weather. So here we come, not that we've had a really, really warm summer. So like training camp, we've had a hot summer in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like unseasonably hot, high humidity, so our temperatures here for us are hot. I mean, and you guys got hot.
No.
But I think that's one of the things. And I know the past 2 weeks, they've been trying to put them inside the interior practice hall. They've been turning up the heat. Then of course they've been going into silent counts too, because they're expecting the noise. But what's the I didn't look at what the weather prediction is.
So I haven't looked at it since the beginning of the week, but it didn't look like it was going to change too drastically. So at the time I looked, and anybody in the chat, if you guys can confirm this, that'd be great. It was about a high of 85 with like a low of mid 60s, I guess, that morning before, and then that evening as you kind of get into, even though the game will be over with. So let me kind of tell you what that means. That means that it says 85 at kickoff. It will feel like 95 because of the humidity, and because the sun will be just blazing right down on top. Well, a little bit, the times are changing obviously this part of the year, so the sun's a little bit further down by that time. But if we were like at the beginning of September, that thing would be right on top of us blazing at that point, and we'd all be burning up. So I will say that I don't expect this one to be a scorcher compared to some that we've had in the past, but you will feel the heat and you will feel the humidity, both figuratively and literally, out there on the field.
Exactly. And that's a factor, right? I mean, it's a factor for both sides, but yet, when you're training in it and conditioning in it, obviously it's different. So I think that's going to play a role. Yeah, you're right. A 3:30 kickoff Eastern time, 2:30 time, your time. It's still in the day. But somebody's saying it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, that's from this is South. You look at his name, Southeastern Kaiju, which means he's from the Southeast. So 95 to him is like a balmy Sunday, like it's nothing.
Well, let's also put it in perspective though, right? So like when we're up here in the middle of our winters and we get into like February and we get like a 25-degree day, we're walking around in shorts.
Yeah.
That's so like, we have a different perspective of what warm weather is. And then when it gets hot, we're hurting.
Yeah, just a quick personal story. One time you shared a picture on Facebook, and you were in like, I don't know how many feet of snow, just walking around your house, and you were in like a t-shirt. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's what it is. Your blood gets so thick after months of being dormant in this cold weather that you just kind of get used to it. But then as soon as the weather breaks, like I said, we had a hot summer. It was hot. And then, I think, that I had some surgery on my Achilles. And so I've been in a boot for the past 7 weeks.
Oh.
And it was like during the warmest part of the summer, the best summer we had in years. And I'm like, sweating sweating it all off. So
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that'll be good. But I think going back to what you were asking about the run, and it's interesting to see like how we've also been linebacker U for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have some definite strong candidates that are rotating through that pool, but we have some development that still has to take place. So that's why that defensive front line, that defensive line has to also be able to contain the linebackers are there. So that's where we're big. He's a big dude. So he's got a great career ahead of him. That's awesome.
Well, it's not like the Big Ten, the Midwest area is not known for growing them big up there. You think there's that stretch from like Nebraska all the way over to you guys where you just know that your linemen, your linebackers are they're on a different level of man,
right.
They feeding all kinds of starch,
Yes.
Getting them filled up and bulked up, ready to go. It was, it's something that I think, you guys have a propensity to bring those type of guys in. You are a linebacker. You Pluzlitsny? What's it? I forget.
Pluzlitsny. Yeah,
yes.
Pluzlitsny. Yeah, he was one of the classics. That whole era of line. He's one of many. The one that I remember growing up with was Shane Conlon. So not growing up with, but I was in college when Shane Conlon, I think, did he go to the Buffalo Bills? I forget where he ended up going. But like they were also part of that old school they reminded me of like the Jack Lamberts of the NFL, like these guys in the back, they would roam that backfield, that behind the line, and they just like monsters. And we continued to always attract people. We always had great linebacker coaches, and we continue that tradition. But football's been changing too. I think it's been, you're seeing the offense at Penn State, in my opinion, again, has been changing. It's been getting longer. It's been getting more explosive. We're seeing more incorporation of tight ends. We're seeing more or longer explosive pass plays. And I don't know if that's because college football in general is changing, but we needed to do something. I think we needed to kind of get away from just the run game and the big, like you said, the big guys, but it's always fun to get back into those contests too in the Big Ten to see that size come down to it and kind of balance everything off. But it is interesting stuff. But linebacker it's always fun to see those guys kind of develop over time.
Well, you talked about linebackers and y'all's history of that. I think there's been modes or times, at least for the SEC, we've been some sort of a linebacker U. I think we're kind of getting back towards that. We got a guy named Owen Papo or Owen Papau, however you'd like to say it, because Papau. There's a new guy, Cam Riley, that's kind of risen up. He had like 13 solo tackles in the opener, which, it was against an FCS school. So you kind of expect, guys to go off and have these great stats. Tank had like 130 yards. But, we've had, at least lately, a good history of linebackers. One thing that I do know about this game, and I think we've already touched on it, it's about the run game, offensively and defensively. And I think that is going to be an interesting matchup because I think both teams can be strong in both of those areas, especially defense wise. The front seven looks very stout. Auburn's got a guy like Derek Hall, actually two guys, and Iku Leota that come off the edge, and they are just sack machines when they want to be. And we've had a lot of encouraging signs about the middle of the defensive line, Marcus Harris being one of those. The one big thing, and this, I'm no expert on this, just I'm going off of what I see, is Marcus Harris the last two games has gotten up the middle and disrupted some plays, but he's not finished the tackles. If he starts finishing the tackles, that guy's going to be talked about a lot, maybe even draft wise at the end of the night. But that's a long way off. We'll worry. And
he's a senior or junior?
Actually, I could confirm that for you. Let me look real quick. I'll find the information and get for you, but I believe that he would be a senior at this point.
Well, let me ask you kind of okay, junior. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like one of the conversation topics we talk about in my family is the movement of players now, like with the portal. How do you feel about some of that stuff happening now, where players are kind of uprooting so early and moving? And we saw some interesting things this past weekend, right? With certain quarterback and so on. We won't go there, but like, what do you think about that? Should that continue? Do you think that's a good thing for collegiate sports? Or
wow, what a loaded
I know
question.
that's a deep question. Yeah, right. I know that's a big one, right?
We've talked about this, and we will continue to talk about this a lot on this channel, but something needed to be done to address and that's a bigger answer to that question. First of all, just how to do better by student athletes overall, give them more opportunities, pay all that kind of stuff. We're not going to get into NIL, or we can if we want to, but that's a whole nother thing.
That's outside of my pay grade. And plus, don't forget, I work for the university, so I have to watch what they say.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Oh, I got to be careful what I ask you now too. Oh, completely just blew my mind over here. Thankfully, I don't.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
It's funny. People ask me every time they ask what I do, and I'm like, "Oh, you work for the university?" I'm like, no. I love my university, but I don't want to. At least in what I do, I don't want to work for them. I want to be able to, say, be unbiased and be able to speak my mind when I want to.
Yeah, believe me, we won't go any further. Just
anyway, the answer to your question, which I should finally get to, is the transfer portal. I think offers a lot of opportunities. The problem is when it's abused. It's like anything else, right? People will find a way to exploit it. People will find a way to overdo things. I think the biggest drawback, though, is how easy it is for someone to break a commitment and to move on. And some of this can be said about coaching changes too, right? Like, they can sign these giant contracts and just leave whenever they want. Necessarily, they have to pay a buyout or whatever. But it's just, if I'm going to be my old grumpy man saying, "Get off my lawn." So shout out to one of our viewers who says that a lot. I don't like that aspect of it. I think that you made a commitment. You should honor it outside of extenuating circumstances. There are exceptions for everything. So we've seen a lot of benefit from it. A lot of teams have. So I'm not going to deny that and say that it's wrong or that it's bad, but the changes that are coming just seem to be coming real fast. And I'm not sure that I like all of them.
Yeah, it does. It does. It kind of, I think the reason why I asked that is because I think there's something, maybe it is the grumpy old man in us. It's the consistency of a team. I think that's what I think that's what we still find so fascinating about sports is the coming together of a team effort and then achieving something. And when you see this variable now that kind of always slices and dices it, without getting into all the other things you said, like the incentives and the money and everything, I think at the core of it all, it's a sport, it's a team. And you like to see that. I think we've been, we probably talk all day about baseball with that, right? Going back to the old teams, like you can remember a lineup for 10 years. It'd be the same 10 guys, same guys for 10 years. Today, that's, it's impossible.
Right.
Except for some franchises, but I just want to ask you that because I know that that's something that we always come back to, and we always try to figure out, what is our team going to look like next year? Well, we don't know because they can go to the portal, and then all of a sudden you're up in the air, and you could have looked like the top ranked team at the end of last year. Now all of a sudden your roster looks totally different. So.
Let me ask you this, not necessarily about the game itself, but I'm bringing this comment up here because I know Rob just told us today that he's at Auburn right now getting the grill fired up. Do you guys come this early and start tailgating on Thursdays?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I know I like Penn State people. Yes. You get it, right? If I lived closer to Auburn, I would be there already. I mean, I'm going there tomorrow, but I would already be there hanging out with people.
Yeah. So it's interesting. When you go to, first of all, for those that don't know, State College, Beaver Stadium is in the middle of the state. It's also in the middle of nowhere. So, you have Philadelphia over on the east side of the state. You have Pittsburgh on the west side of the state. I'm from the Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area. But, people start to take their pilgrimage, Thursday. And they'll be, especially those with the RVs, right? So they're going in there. They're on the hard. They're normally, those that can afford it will be up on the hard surface parking, and they'll be anchoring them in and setting up shop, and it turns into that. There was Paternoville where the students would camp out, getting ready to get into the stadium and so on. But on game day, it's funny, you could have a noon start, you could have a 1 p.m. start, you have the 7:30 starts, but I've always enjoyed the more like the 3:30 start because it gives you that nice edge of morning into the day where you do a lot of good grilling, all the grilling coming out. And it's just such a great community going through the food, the fanfare, the camaraderie. And you know what, I mean, I've seen people, wearing other jerseys from other teams coming through there, and it's, give them a burger, give them a sausage, give them a beer or soda or whatever. It's just fun. It's a fun environment. But yes, it starts early, and the bigger the venue. I mean, so the first whiteout, I'm hoping we're going to do more than one whiteout this year. The whiteout this year is October 22nd. And I only know that because that's my daughter's wedding. So we're going to be at that wedding, obviously. But that event itself is just like a culmination. And then, usually it's covered by the major networks, and then it just kind of adds to it. And when ESPN is there on game day, it's just the whole environment. It just pulls you in. But yes, if people get there early and then, what's amazing? I don't know how it is at Auburn, but once people clear out, it's like a whirlwind of activity to clean it all up, and they're back to classes for Monday. So it's a neat thing. It's a fun event.
The first game this year, I got to stay through the full weekend, and I remember leaving that, and we had a rain delay too. So I got out of the stadium probably 11 o'clock at night. Maybe it wasn't that late, but anyway, it was late. And I got back onto campus the next day, like around 2, and it's like it never happened. They've got this down to a science, and said, listen, we got to burn it and turn it. Let's go. Like
that's right.
We got to get going for the next weekend. One of the big places we have for tailgating is called the Hayfields. Shocker, I know, for a what used to be mainly an ag-based college. We are called a cow college. Okay, Alabama fans, shut up. So
well, that's something we have in common, because we're an ag-based culture. We're an ag-based college too. Yeah. Land grant institution. We're technically known as. So anyway, yeah.
At least we never mind. I was going to be mean to Alabama fans. I'm not going to. So anyway, get it together, Kyle. Be professional. If I ever was. So yes, the tailgating started. We are excited for it. And I love that you said about the atmosphere, because one of the things we like to pride ourselves here on this channel is, we talk a lot about sports. We like to talk about the whole experience of it, even outside of just being part of the Auburn family. One of those things is the Auburn family, in my opinion, I think most people's opinion, we all have our bad ones. Every team does, some more than most. Alabama. But we try to treat people cordially, have a little ribbon fun, not make it too personal, anything like that. But, most of the time I hear so many stories of people leaving Auburn and having a great experience. So that is my biggest hope for Penn State fans that are coming down, is that you will be treated with respect, have a little fun with each other, but also, just hope that you'll be treated with hospitality, the good old Southern hospitality. With that in mind, there was a question I wanted to ask your perspective on. How many Penn State fans do you think will be in the stadium? You may not know, but are you hearing a lot of Penn State fans?
You know what? Actually, it's funny you brought that up. So my wife works with a very big supporter. Her boss, actually, he's a big Penn State football fan. I don't know if he's making the trip. I wouldn't be surprised if he is. So he would be there, but I'm not hearing a lot per se. Yeah. I mean, that's not saying that there won't be a good representation. The one thing that Penn State has always done is we travel well. And I think that's one thing that you see. I think one of the reasons why we get some nice bowl nods is because the Penn State Alumni Network is, I'm not trying to put this in anybody's face, but it is, from what I'm told, is the largest alumni network in the world. So we're everywhere. And so if we're everywhere, then that they're going to get tickets to get into some of these games. Now, obviously they're not the best seats, but they'll get into the games and go there. But that's a great question. I hope that there's a good show in there, because that little speck. So I'm wondering, if I were there and you guys are all in orange, I would probably want to wear blue. Yeah. I would want to wear a dark color. Yeah. So the players could make sure somebody's in the stadium.
I think we chose, because you would think, our primary, well, I shouldn't say primary, we're navy and burnt orange. They're equal, but we tend to lean more navy a lot of the time. So with y'all's, blue nature as well, we don't want to probably mix that as much, which is why they made that. I got to give you a Big Ten shout out. Teddy from Texas is one of our resident Big Ten fans here, even though he's from Texas. Go figure.
Hey, Teddy.
So he says, finally a gentleman on the podcast. He still comes back. I don't know why he is, because apparently there's no gentleman here. But yeah, so I just wanted to know that you had one fan at least being vocal in the chat tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Teddy.
My hope is that Penn State fans show out, because that's just what makes college football great.
Yeah.
You know, mixing and intermingling and stuff like that. And, you know, in my opinion, we, at least whoever makes the decisions, we usually put them over in the, I'm trying to think of directional wise. It's in one of the corners where do you know if the band's going to travel? Do y'all travel with your band a lot?
Yeah, they usually do. So they do travel. Not the full band, but there is definitely a band that will travel.
Okay. I hope so, because to me, having the bands dueling across from each other is just, it's one of those things you don't want to miss. You know, I'm hitting a lot of things that you brought up a little while ago, because I don't want to forget them. You're talking about the 2:30 kickoff. Yes, I like that better than an 11 o'clock kickoff, but I just am so disappointed that you don't get to see, the fans that'll be there don't get to see Jordan Hare in nighttime with all its glory. I mean, it is just, it's amazing to have, you know, with the sunset going down, the Eagle flight come over and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be great. You're not necessarily missing out on anything other than just the feel that comes with nighttime. And, you know, we do a little light show now, which I'm not a huge fan of, but hey, everybody's got their thing these days. I can't be a grumpy old man about everything. That is my one regret about this, is that we got to experience Beaver Stadium at nighttime. I'm sad that it's not going to happen this time.
Yeah, no, and this is CBS covering it too, correct?
Yeah, it is CBS.
Oh, there, yeah, somebody just put it up there. Yeah, so it's CBS. Yeah, and that's the other game, right, that we're beholden to now, is the network that carries the game is the one that drives the time slot. And because that was one of the reasons. Well, so going back to the whiteout, the whiteout game this year, the one I was just talking about, isn't against Ohio State or Michigan like it would normally be, or in Auburn. It's against Minnesota. Nothing against the Minnesota fans, but different stacking. And one of the reasons why I think was because Fox was carrying that game. But nonetheless, it kind of goes back to all that. It's just fun stuff. You know what I was going to ask you too? So like during the game, and having not been at an Auburn game, like, are there other activities that go on in the stands, like with the student section? And like I told you about the We Are Penn State. We also the wave and all that. What else carries on during this?
We got a lot of chants. Got a lot of little cheers that we have the Mike man. I don't know if you guys, he's the head cheerleader.
Yes.
Well, I shouldn't say head cheerleader. Dalton is his name. He's screaming at me now. He's probably saying, I'm not the head. I don't know. I don't actually know how the hierarchy works, but you know, he's leading the cheers the entire time. Aubie's running around doing these little antics. It's less and less these years, but you know, Aubie used to make a point of going to find the other mascot and messing with him, you know, as much as mascots. So I don't know if that's beyond COVID stuff. That's just like, it's less and less this. I wish that happened more, because I can distinctly remember Ole Miss's old mascot, Colonel Reb, getting taken down in an arm wrestling match, like right behind the end zone one time. The crowd just going, you know, nuts. The students are not required, but if you don't stand up the entire time, the student body will riot on you. So so they will be standing up for the majority of the time, except for halftime. Let's see what other traditions. The Eagle flight pregame. If it was a nighttime game, we've got this new like light thing that we do, and everybody puts their cell phones up, and it hooks it up Wi-Fi wise, and like it blinks all in sequence and stuff like that. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of those type of things. Usually we used to sing at the end of the third quarter, Sweet Caroline.
Oh yeah, that's we do. Yes, that's us too. Yeah. What is it with that song?
I don't know. And we used to sing Living on a Prayer.
So do we? Yeah.
So I think that we probably cover a lot of the same, you know,
must be the same package. Yeah.
But I mean, as we've been talking, it sounds like Penn State and Auburn are very similar, you know, traditional programs, traditional powers, you know, ag based kind of thing. We tailgate the same. Weather's a little different. Grow a little bit bigger. But so for those that, you know, aren't aware, like the Nittany Lion is our mascot, and whenever a touchdown is scored, he begins to push ups. So every touchdown, it's 7 push-ups, and then if they score again, 14 push-ups and 21 push-ups. So they build it. And the other fun thing that they still do is they'll do a chant. Usually it'll start in the student section, and usually stays in the student section. Well, they'll start chanting, "We want the lion. We want the lion." And you'll have the seniors, the juniors, and then the mixed section of sophomore and freshmen. And
he'll go to the loudest section, and then he basically hops up, and then they pass him up on their hands all the way from the bottom to the top of the bleachers, and then sometimes back down. But usually gets up and he hops off. But it's fun stuff like that. That's what I enjoy about the games and everything. Like you said, the traditions. It's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah. I will say this matchup is starting even without a nighttime game, even without college game day coming, because I really thought, and I think that's on us. If we were a little bit better looking, they probably would have chosen to come back, because they did college game day for us last year, right? When we were at y'all's place.
Yep.
So I think they might have, it's probably, they did it last year, and Auburn's looking, kind of questionable at times this year. So that's probably not the exciting. I mean, they went to App State, for crying out loud, this week. So they chose App State over us.
I know. Yeah. Right.
Well, technically the plan was for them to go to Texas A&M Miami, and then Jimbo Fisher pulled a Jimbo Fisher. So, yeah, we have no opinions about Jimbo Fisher here. And he used to be an Auburn offensive coordinator.
That's right.
Back in the day. So, but we are not fans of Jimbo Fisher anymore. Anyway, I even without the college game day atmosphere, SEC Nation, the SEC version of college game day is going to be here. There's all kinds of things going on. I think Bo Jackson's actually going to come to this game. I think it seems like the celebrities are going to show out for this. It's going to be a big, big, big event, and it started apparently today with people like Rob who've already there tailgating. So if you were worried about this thing being boring, no excitement about it, I can promise you that the weather alone, just because of the rain we've been having, if it not, well, knock on wood, of it not supposed to rain, it's gonna be good. I cannot wait to go to sleep tonight and get up and go tomorrow.
I love the excitement. You remind me of my cousin. So my cousin Jason, if he's watching out there, hey Jay, he's got his season tickets. My brother-in-law Steve too. I sent him the link to chime in too. He's got his. We are all Penn State football goers, but you speak just as does my cousin Jay. He is so excited about this football season. Like, he constantly texts me, constantly excited, always positive, always looking forward to the game. He's looking forward to this matchup. He's like a kid it's like a kid before Christmas. He just loves it. He's just so excited about it. So it's fun hearing you share that thought too. So
I can't get enough of this. This is why I do what I do. It's not. Yes, it has to do with the football, but it has to do with, for our purposes, specifically the Auburn family, and being together and experiencing all those things. You asked about traditions before during the game. We got Tiger Walk. I think everybody's got a version of that now, where they walk into the stadium together. But we'll claim we did it first, and everybody copied us. But it is an incredible experience. I'm there every single Tiger. Well, I say every single one, everyone that I'm supposed to be there, and videotaping it and sharing a live stream of it. It's just it's gonna be fun.
Let me ask you this then. So if I was a Penn State fan going down to an Auburn game, what would be like the top 2 or top 3 things you would tell me to make sure I experience maybe before the game or go to see? And I could share maybe one with those that are, that are this way.
Goodness gracious, where to start? We had a similar question on our just open mic night call show last night, but it was an Auburn fan who's making their either first trip or first time in forever trip and asking my opinion on what to do. And so we kind of got into this last night, and it's just, okay. Toomer's Lemonade. You need to go to the Toomer's drugstore right across the most northern corner of campus, where the Toomer's trees reside. I don't know, not to get into all that tonight, but they were poisoned and they're being the new ones are there now. So we'll roll Toomer's if we win. So go, even if I know it seems like painful for Penn State fans to go there if we do win, because that you're walking into our celebration after beating you, but go check it out. I mean, no one's going like jumpy or anything like that. No, they're just gonna have fun. Just don't be like Georgia fans and Bama fans and try to light everything on fire. I'm not kidding.
Okay, I'm
not kidding.
That's horrible, man. That's where it goes. Yeah, that's that.
Well, I mean, one of them poisoned our tree. I mean, like that's
yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'll still bring it up anyway. So they need to go to Toomer's Drugs right across from that corner and get a lemonade. As much as I love the strawberry lemonade, they need to get the original. It is very tart. It is very sweet, but it is some of the best lemonade that you will ever get in your life. You need to do that. Go to Tiger Walk and, maybe kind of watch it from a little bit of a distance back so you can see everything. You don't have to get all up in there with everybody like we all are if you don't want to be all up in that. That is something, I could throw you restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. Mama Goldberg's is one that I would throw out, which is like a deli hole in the wall place. There are several of them around campus and the town, but the original that's close to the basketball arena, it is literally the shack that shouldn't even be standing still. Like everybody who's been there has written their names in the walls or etched them in the. Jessica and I wrote ours together. My wife, in there before we left. So go do Mama Goldberg's, Tumor's Corner, Tiger Walk, get in the stadium early enough to do the Eagle Flight, which is usually like 15 to 20 minutes before, I think, all that to see the pageantry. And, that's my biggest thing is Auburn actually does a really good job. If you'll go to the Auburn Tigers, especially Twitter handle, I think even their Facebook page, they'll put out like a game day experience for the Auburn fans, but Penn State fans could be really, really benefit from that.
Oh, that's a good thing to know. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. And then, just non-Auburn stuff, SEC Nation is going to be in town right where Tiger Walk happens. So come on out to SEC Nation with some of the Auburn fans and watch that. So cool. I mean, that is just the surface of what I would recommend, but it's got to be some highlights.
Yeah, no, there's some neat things that I always think are worthwhile when you come up to a state college and go to a game at Beaver Stadium, and that's the bus ride in. So the blue buses arrive with the players. So that's a drive in from the practice hall to up to the stadium, and then they get off. So these are blue school buses that just drive in. It looks so old school. It has some great history because in the past, I believe Joe Paterno would walk behind the buses. And as the buses would drive up. So it would be kind of like this procession. And then, of course, when the band arrives, there's nothing better than a marching band entering the stadium, and the drums are banging and, and they're all marching and stepping and chanting sometimes, I think that just kind of sets the tone for it.
Yeah.
And then, once you get in the stadium, we're starting to see, food changes in the stadium. So I can never say for certain what's the best thing to have, but we used to have these sticky buns, and I think they're now in the stadium. They're cinnamon sticky buns.
Yeah.
So those are always warm and good. And in the cold weather, it's even better. And then I'm a big fan of, not caramel corn candy. Oh my gosh, the corn that he makes in the big kettle.
Wow, I'm blanking now too. Somebody help us in the chat.
Not candy corn, not caramel. Is it caramel corn? No. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite. And I can't even think of what it is.
I think that could be
my favorite. Yeah. No, but I think that's like, once again, going back to everything we were saying here tonight, like, the tradition, the things you kind of revisit to, the food, the drinks, the environment. It's just good stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could take you all weekend to stuff in and around Auburn. There's the town of Opelika, which is very close to Auburn. They're basically they do so many things together, but they're still rivals in high school and stuff like that. There's just Auburn. People think of Auburn, Alabama. They're like, first of all, what? Excuse me. But there
kettle
is
corn.
Yeah,
kettle corn.
There it is. Thank you. I thought that's what you meant, but I wasn't certain.
Sorry about that.
Look, they all got it.
They're all saying it now, right?
Corey, I'm glad you brought this up. I was thinking about this. Conecuh hot dogs in the stadium are really good. But for us, that's so commonplace. I kind of forget about it all the time because that's just Conecuh's I won't call them a local company, but they're an Alabama-based company. And I believe, help me if I'm wrong on that, guys in the chat, please let me know. But that would be try Conecuh hot dog. I get one.
Now, is that a hot dog or is it a sausage?
Both. It's like you can get. I think you can just get the sausage, or you can get it in a hot dog kind of thing. I get the hot dog, and they call it a Conecuh hot dog. So that's what I get in the stadium. But I know that is their thing, is making some form of elongated meat. However you want to put that. But yeah, so there are plenty of options around before, after, in game, all that kind of stuff. Man, you got my mind racing. 90.
You know what I was just thinking? You need to probably do a show or something where you kind of like do some coverage on.
Oh yeah,
tailgating, just tailgating, because that is like it's definitely a staple of college football, but it's done at so many different levels, right? You have like just the traditional grill. No, you know what? I'll tell this story real quick. My first encounter of Penn State football, I was in I think 7th grade, and my uncle's friends would go to the games, and my uncle said, "Why don't you come along?" And so I did. And it was really funny. Like, we would drive. So I at that time, I lived about 2.5 hours from Beaver Stadium. So the trek would start off at stopping at this Polish deli in this one small town, and we would load up on roast beef and sliced turkey and sliced ham. And then we would hit this bakery, Schwickler's. We would hit this Polish bakery, and then we would get all fresh rolls. That was our tailgate, right? Just sandwiches. To this day, I have never had a roast beef sandwich that can match that like I had in middle school. But then, but then it goes all the way up, right? You go back to those RVs and you got people hanging chandeliers, and they got shrimp on the bobby. They got all this stuff going on, and the sausages and steaks and salads. And it's just like, it just goes from one end to the other. And it's crazy, right? It's just, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh man. Listen, the fun that's going to be had this weekend, it's just going to be, well, it's the first time it's ever happened with Penn State and Auburn fans together. So I hope it's one that we all remember, and we want to do this again. We're signed up with these Pac-12 teams for the next couple of years. So that's unfortunate. We got to go see Cal and UCLA and and apparently we're going to go do Baylor and Miami. So it'll be a while till we get back to another home series, but hopefully it won't be the last time we do that. You got another about 10 minutes or so? Hang out with us. Let's kind of get back more into the game itself a little bit. And we've talked a little bit about this, talking about how the front seven is going to be, probably key for both teams, and both seem to be pretty formidable. The run game, you think it's going to be run game. And I think Auburn fans, as we talked about, are a little bit scared of Sean Clifford and what he could potentially do. You think after 6 years, right, the guy's got it down pat, just ready to sling it around and be the Heisman Trophy winner. I know. And let me just say this. Our former quarterback, Bo Nix, and here we go. I'm going to chime people that his love and hate relationship of the fans to him is something to behold, which is why I'm glad he's not here anymore. Not because I didn't want him, but because just for his own safety, his own peace of mind.
Right.
I equated what we went through with Bo to what it sounds like on some level y'all have. Not that you personally or anybody, but it sounds to me like there's kind of that back and forth with Sean Clifford a little bit. Is that fair assessment?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment. I think, Penn Staters are always trying to hold up the Penn State team in this. I think this happens with any team, any homer, right? You want your team to be comparable to the top team, top program all the time, every year. And if that team doesn't get you to that point, you throw them under the bus, and I think there's always that flow. I'm assuming that's what it's like in a lot of other, with a lot of other fans. But yeah, I think Clifford has been we went from Trace McSorley to Sean Clifford, and it was, Trace was a really interesting, fun player to watch. He's, making a run at it. He's trying to make a run at it, in the pros, but, Clifford is, he comes back and a lot of people are scratching their heads like, why is he coming back? Because we want to bring on the next generation, but he's endearing, he's smart, he's played, he knows the game. He looks super comfortable, but I think he's also been banged up enough that, you don't want to have him exposed, because that already showed up in the first game where he took some hits and with Purdue, and all of a sudden everybody was like kind of holding their breath, right? Because if he goes down, but he goes out, they bring in his backup, who's a freshman, and he's very, very smooth. He just needs more reps and more, obviously more practice, but it'll be interesting to see how, he continues on through the season. I'm hoping that he finishes the season. I hope he has a great year. He decided to come back. So his brother's on the team too. So that's another anchoring reason, I think.
Right. Of course. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, if you got the extra eligibility, you got a family member now on the team, it makes sense. I'm jealous in the sense that y'all's quote unquote controversial player had got his swan song, so to speak, and got to come back and maybe make things completely right. You're never going to be able to please everybody. Here's what I do know. Sean Clifford, I think, only had 3 incompletions against us in Beaver Stadium. If that happens again, we're in trouble. Because, doesn't matter how good your defensive backfield is. If you only have 3 incompletions the entire game, and one of those was an interception, but you threw it as a Hail Mary at the end of the first half, I don't even count that one.
He had some really great talent though, and his wide receiver core, and they've almost all moved on, and now you got guys moving up in their junior. So there was, watching the last few games, there's been a lot of drop passes and a lot of passes that were.
Oh, that's encouraging to hear.
Well, it was one of those things where the ball hit them in their worst place, their hands. So it was like, what happened? Now I don't want to be the downer on that, but I'm hoping that they kind of fine tune some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I do think what was really interesting about the season for us to start off this year was, here we started off with Purdue, and normally, when you look at, how these seasons start.
That was a great game, by the way.
Well, yeah, but it was one of those. That's a Big Ten schedule team. That's not an out of conference
Right.
game. And that's what we normally have seen all these years. Now, granted, we would always weave in one of these other games, like an Auburn or so on, but we'd always have a warm-up game. We went in, so did they, game one, boom. And it was like a real shock to the system, I think. And then you kind of go into Ohio, which is no slouch, but they're different level. And so then all of a sudden, here we are now with Auburn, and this game 3. So it'll be interesting to see how fast they matured and how fast they get ready. That's going to be, I think, the telltale sign for Penn State's season and probably Auburn's, right? I mean, you have the chance here to say, if you put it to Penn State, now that changes the whole dynamic of your season, I think.
Oh, it absolutely does. There's myself included, are banking on Auburn finishing undefeated in this 5-game home stretch, because I mean, who else gets that, that often, so you want to take advantage of that because of what's coming down the line. We're the only team that has to face Georgia and Alabama every single year.
And we go up against Ohio State and Michigan. So
there you go. And so you understand. Look, the more we talk, literally, if we could get Bo Nix back, we are literally the same team. Because I mean,
it's interesting. It is interesting now that you think about it. Yeah,
it really is. Our quarterbacks this year, they've had some ups. They've had quite a few downs as well. We have I won't call them a 2-headed monster yet, because they've got a lot of ability, but they haven't completely put it together yet. And if they can do that this game, you're going to see TJ Finley, the tall 6'7" statue of a man that's going to stand in there and be able to take the hits and be able to make. He showed last game that he could make some pretty good decisions in some rough situations. Robbie Ashford, who is just going to run to his little heart's content as a quarterback and hopefully get to throw some and not throw a pick this time. So you've got to look at that. We talked about Tank. Our wide receivers are very similar. A lot of up and coming talent that hasn't just been realized yet. Tight ends is a good area for us overall with some senior leadership there.
Well, and talking about the seniors, you have a really strong returning core, right, of experience too.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's also around special teams.
Yes. So you've got Anders Carlson, who did, I forget what his injury was, but basically had to be out for almost the whole year at the end of the year. Came back for his senior year or his 5th year to kick again. So he's of the Carlson line. Carlson, his brother's in the NFL right now. Right. Our punter's been here for 2 seasons now. We apparently cannot get anybody except an Australian punter, because our last 2 ones have been. So the wonder from down under, Oscar Chapman, he's an excellent punter. And we've got a lot of athletes that can do great stuff, not just on kick returns and punt returns ourselves, but on the defense of that. That's one of the areas that's been impressive to me to watch this year, is how good our punt and kick return coverage has been, and how fired up. Not just, because when you think of those type of teams, it's the guys that are looking for more player time, right? Usually. But we've got the, I call him the backup running back, but we utilize him a lot, going down there and flying and just knocking people's heads off. Right. And that's what you love to see, is guys that, even though they may be the stars in another area, value things like making the most of being on a special teams play. Right. So I would say definitely right now, the only sure thing we have is a great run defense, a front 7 overall, and special teams overall. The back half of the defense and then the offense outside of running the ball is really up in the air of what it could look like. But you guys are the barometer upon which we decide where we're at right now as a team. I mean, I don't know if you take that as an honor or not.
No, no, sure I do. I mean, you're right. I think there's a lot of equality in there, and it is a good barometer. It's good to test it out. And I think it's going to be we'll talk about a score prediction here, I think, soon, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You want to do that now?
Well, yeah, we could do it now. Let's everybody in the chat. So this is your opportunity as well to participate a little bit. We'd love to know some of your predictions for scores. So post that right now. Lock it in. Not that you have to hold yourself to it for the rest of the 2 days, but I guess I'll have to as well. But usually we do this throughout the week. We talk about this game a lot. We do several live streams, and I kind of help them inform my decision-making process a little bit. I can't remember what my score was in my prediction video, but I did predict Auburn to win. Now that I'm looking 2 games in, that not that I feel significantly less confident about that, but I would say that I'm not as confident. The one thing that I think Auburn has is the home field advantage. And much like you guys did at Beaver Stadium last year, that I think is really going to play into our favor.
Right.
And if that ability can get it realized, that's what's going to make my decision. But I guess kind of walk me through what you think your score prediction looks like and what you might think.
I think it's going to score fast actually in the first half, and it's going to go slow in the second. I'm calling it 24-21.
24-21 Penn State?
Penn State.
Okay, 24-21.
I'm looking at this as a field goal winning difference.
Well, and you know, a lot of people were concerned in terms of field goals, thinking about that when Anders came back this year after his ACL injury. That's what someone said in the chat it was. I thought it was ACL, but I wanted to speak out of turn. He had a little bit of his distance, it seemed, lost in this one kick he did this last week, but I think it could have been a fluke. So if we do get into a field goal kicking situation, that may be an area, at least distance wise, where you guys might be favored a little bit. So that's not a bad thought process, just because of we're unsure of Anders's distance. Kickoffs, he looks great, but you know, that's a whole different beast. Kicking off versus kicking a field goal too. I was a kicker, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, 2 different things. Yeah.
Two different things.
Yeah. I like these scores coming in. All I could say is, let's see them coming in here. Auburn wins 9-7.
That's gonna if it's that low scoring.
That's a Big Ten matchup right there. That's that old school grind it out football on the ground in bad weather. Just slugfest. Wow, but nice.
I would say, if I'm trying to get my head around my score prediction, what it'll finally be, it'll definitely, I think I had us in my prediction video winning by like 6 or something like that. It's going to be much closer than that if Auburn wins. And I will predict an Auburn win just because I have to. I legitimately think Auburn has a and I've been talking to a lot of other Auburn fans in person this week, and they keep asking my opinion. I'm like, why are you so confident? I'm like, I mean, have you been to Jordan-Hare? Like, I mean, we took the #1 team down to 4 overtimes, and they had no business doing that. I mean, and that was last year's team, which had 1.5 or half a quarterback, because the other guy had hurt himself and the other guy was playing hurt, and that was it. So that alone, I think, gives us a good shot to win this game, much less just having the ability and the talent to do so. So we'll score at least 2 touchdowns. How that happens, God only knows. Tank will probably be 1. Jarquez the other running back will probably be another 1. My hope is that what we've been keying off of is getting more turnovers, namely some interceptions. And I'm hoping we can, with our pass rush, force Clifford in one of the mistakes that I know he sometimes had been prone to at times, maybe not so much this year in his past. So I'm going to say that we even get a touchdown from maybe a pick 6 or picking up a fumble or something like that. So that's 21. I will say 21 Auburn, 20 Penn State. Auburn wins 21-20. That close.
Down to the wire.
I legitimately think that, and it may be a case where you said like it started quick, right? Mm-hmm. Where the scoring happens fast and all that, people are making mistakes until everybody calms down and stuff like that. It may be like we get up to like, I don't know, 14 to 17 really, really quickly. And then it just kind of like is a, back and forth field position battle for that final strike or something like that somebody's going to make. I could actually see that happening very legitimately. So I love your prediction.
Yeah, and you said something too that was something that Coach Franklin kind of brought up in his press conference that was focusing on Auburn this week, and it was the turnover factor. Obviously, he would like to see more of that happen, where there's those disruptive type plays. And he brought up something too that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, and that's the mentality that's involved in creating that disruption. So it sounds like, and not having played any collegiate level football, it sounds like there's an interesting balance in terms of not letting that become your mindset, because then it takes you out of your mindset that's preparing you for the game. So like there's obviously that desire to take the ball away from somebody to force a fumble, seek out an interception. But then there's also, if you go too far into that mindset, it starts to create a disruption for you just on the defense, because now you're not in that mode. And I thought that was real interesting. So I was wondering, like, when they're coaching, how do you get to that point?
Right.
How do you create that balance? And it sounds like it really ultimately comes back to athleticism. Or the ability to see the ball. If you're a defender and you're able to see the ball coming through wherever it is, and you focus on it. So I think we have guys that can do that, but it sounds like we need to work at that too. So
well, and it's third game of the year for both teams. Even though for us as Auburn fans, we're calling this the barometer test, which it is. That doesn't mean if you end in a loss, Auburn fans, that it's the end of the world. I'm having therapy session now with some of our Auburn fans, so you're excused for a second, Fred. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. Everybody settle down. It's not fire Harsin time. It's time to just take assessment of where we're at as a team and realize you've got 9 games left in the season and in your entire SEC schedule, where you literally go through the best of college football in most people's eyes. Well,
I'm so glad you're saying this, because we do the same exact thing. We're like with the pitchforks and the torches heading to the castle after every game when we go down. It's like, all right, get rid of him. Don't do it.
That's America. I mean, if Auburn fans don't have a scapegoat, they're not happy. And I'm susceptible to that too. I try to be less openly vocal about it. What I do in my house in front of my television, that's my own business. But
right. I've walked out of the room of watching games. I've walked out of the room, where you're just like, I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. I don't need to be upset anymore.
Well, as we kind of wrap up our time, we'll take some final comments and questions. So get them in real quick. Let me do a couple reminders, and we're going to give Fred a chance to plug what he does too here on the show, because he does something pretty cool as well. But let me give you a couple reminders, not only of what we have going on the rest of the weekend, but just stuff to keep in mind here on the channel. I'll bring these up for you. Keep in mind lots of stuff when I'm on campus. We have got the locker room tour. Now, again, the schedule is tentative, so just keep posted here on YouTube. We'll be doing the locker room tour live from there tomorrow if everything goes as planned. You know how that goes sometimes, folks, when I go from the mobile broadcast studio, aka my car. You've got Tiger Walk live on game day. Don't miss that. That will go right there 2 hours before kickoff. And of course, the post game show from the mobile broadcast studio as well. So be there live for that. And just as a final reminder, we have had our podcast with Jared and his brother Jamie, who is a guest this week, breaking down what they think about the Penn State matchup. So go check that out. And obviously check out all the links in the description for ways you can help support our content down there below and all this stuff. Now, Fred, I want you to take a minute here and just plug what you do as your passion and what I have come to know you as at getmecoding.com.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah. So as you can see, my name there is Mr. Fred. And the reason why it's Mr. Fred, it's not of anything in terms of I'm senior in any way. It's what my students would come to know me as. So I've been teaching at the collegiate level for over 2 decades. And my background is I'm a former U.S. Marine, and I'm also a former software developer. So what I do is I try to inspire young people to also pursue a career, not even just a career, but interest, and explore how to code. So I offer a website where we have getmecoding.com. And that is, I'm also a huge Star Wars fan, as you can see, and I'm a fan of U.S. space travel, actually world space travel. But, I try to offer an opportunity to inspire young people or anybody that wants to begin learning how to code. So if they come out to getmecoding.com, they could find out there's resources out there. It'll link them out to our courses where we have a subscription now that you can go and sign up. But there's other opportunities. If I ever can come to anybody's school, if any of you are teachers or know a teacher or have a young person that you'd like for me to talk and get them excited and interested in technology and the opportunities that it presents, I would be more than welcome. You can get me at the getmecoding.com site. You can email me, fred@getmecoding.com. I would love to speak to anybody. And if you have any questions about that field as a parent, or someone who's just looking into a new career path, send me an email. I'm a good friend of Kyle. Like he said, we've known each other a long time. We've met through some amazing people, and continuing to have a great relationship here. And I'd love to help out anybody in your community if they're interested. So
absolutely. I would highly recommend that you guys go check that out. GiveMeCoding.com, and Mr. Fred is one of the best out there. So please do, if you're interested in anything that he shared there, please do check that out. All right. We do have some final questions, not even necessarily related to football. We're going to take them anyway, because we got you here, and then we'll get ourselves out of here, because I know you've got to probably go get some rest for your game day weekend as well.
Yes.
Let's see. Fred, what is the best Star Wars movie? The only right answer is Revenge of the Sith. What is that in your opinion?
Wait, first of all, I know it says Dawson, but is that my son asking this question? Because that's his favorite. So yeah, I think that's one of the most, but honestly, so I'm a Star Wars 77 kid. So it's the New Hope. It's number 4. It's the first one. But yeah, I just saw somebody said Empire Strikes Back. I think for me, the Empire Strikes Back is just the one that brings together so many of the cool things, the walkers, ultimately Yoda kind of makes a better appearance. But then with the uncovering of Darth Vader as Luke's father, the greatest cliffhanger.
Wait, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, right? Don't tell anybody. No, yeah, that was greatest cliffhanger of all time. Yeah.
I actually agree with Dawson. I'm a Revenge of the Sith fan.
It is great. I mean, I think what's happening now with, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, we could turn this into a Star Wars podcast or a Star Wars legend.
Fred, there's another wall over here that you can't see right now that would say we could definitely do this.
That's yeah, that is, bringing Hayden Christensen back. Just, what, those prequels are actually pretty good. And especially if you know some of the canon stuff too, and if you're a fan of Clone Wars, you got to watch the Clone Wars. That's just brilliant.
Joe, wanted to thank you for your service, and I obviously
thank you, Joe.
Those same sentiments as well, as do I'm sure everybody else. One question that's further, I'm not going to go find it, but I remember it. They wanted to know: are you a Eagles fan or a Steelers fan?
Steelers.
Okay,
Steelers. Yeah, I'm a Steelers, but it's funny. I'm a Steelers fan for football, but I'm a Phillies fan for baseball. So I go back and forth.
That's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic, how you make that work. See, when you come from, even though I'm in Georgia now, when you are raised and you are an Alabamian at heart, you don't have these professional teams. And so at birth, it is Alabama or Auburn. And if you're weird, UAB or one of these other smaller schools in Alabama. And it's like, that's it. That's all you know. Like, the fact that we even acknowledge the Braves is just a miracle in and of itself. And I'm a huge Braves fan, but yeah, that's it. So you guys have several options to choose from.
Yeah, and all right, just to add one, I want to throw a cool fact out there too that a lot of people don't know about also. So State College, like I said, is in the middle of the state. It's a tiny city. It's where the university's, the main university campus is located. On game day, it becomes the 3rd largest city in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, nice. So and there's some similar stat just like that for Auburn.
I bet there has to be for every college town. I would think it's similar. Yeah.
It's not as good as 3rd because obviously y'all got 108,000. Isn't that what it is?
We could do 108. We could pack it. We've had it higher. So it can reach it.
I think Auburn becomes the 5th largest city in Alabama on game day. Because it's like, Birmingham, Huntsville, Montgomery, and Mobile are the 3 that are the 4 that run the center basically of the state are the big cities, and then Auburn on game day. Tuscaloosa, they barely show up for their games anyway, so we just they're over there doing.
I love hearing this banter. See, we don't get to hear this.
Listen,
we just think it's a wall of unitedness
down here. Oh my goodness, no, listen, my mother. I'm gonna say it she's an Alabama fan.
There's always one in the family.
I love her dearly. She's wrong. And, so yeah, we could go on and on for all that stuff. But Fred, I have so enjoyed having this conversation with you. And I know our viewers have as well, having a Penn State perspective and not me just sitting here going, well, I think this is going to happen, and so this kind of thing.
Good stuff.
Hearing your thoughts on the matchup, your team, our team, all that stuff has been a lot of fun. So I very much appreciate it. No, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the opportunity. And I hope everybody it's a great game. And we'll have to follow this up sometime. We got to figure out a way to reconnect this in another way. I'd love to do that thing with you with the tailgating somehow. We got to figure that out. Listen, yeah, we could definitely figure it out. We'll make it happen someday in the future, because hopefully this isn't the last time for a long time that we're talking about Auburn and Penn State together. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Obviously, for you Penn State fans, y'all can say your little thing, but for us here in the Auburn family, the E2C Network family, War Eagle, let's beat Penn State.
Nice.